What's up, guys? How you guys doing? Eh, we're back with a nice little video, okay? So, we're gonna listen to Blaire White talk to a bunch of trans leftists, and there's some trans conservatives. So it's conservative trans versus leftist trans. Shut up, let's get into it.
Person that sometimes has the choice to either go into a men's restroom looking like this. So you can look at me looking like this.
It's just interesting that I thought this was a trans debate. That's what I
don't
thought.
even.
Non-binary people.
Non-binary
I
people
will
fall
throw
under the trans umbrella.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Maybe you could educate yourself a little bit on
think
that.
I could
and maybe
educate
then you would
you.
figure
I think I
out,
could educate
you know,
you,
what
right?
reality is.
Oh,
Whoa.
Hey, to all my straight fellas out there. If you were in the bar one night, you saw Blaire White. You try to go out. You try to go at it. You try to hit that. Ah, I know you would. You'll be like, oh shit, you're a guy.
It is a safety concern for trans women to share a female restroom. Can the agreeers please step forward?
Before we begin this episode, we know there's been a lot of anticipation for this topic.
That is why we're excited to release an extended cut of this episode featuring
Thank you. I ain't listen to that shit. Wow, bro.
Tourists. Tourists that turn into scientists. Tourists photographing.
Shit just started at that episode.
So I think
Okay.
that to start it off though too is it's not necessarily saying that trans women.
Is it a safety concern for trans women to share a female's restroom? Let's say this. It's not a safety concern when it's actual trans women, okay? Someone like Blaire White, if she goes into if she goes to the woman's restroom, like, it's a fucking woman. But these guys right here, like the one in the orange and the one in the white, you'd be like, it might not be a safety concern, but it's like a comfortability concern. Like, I know, and you'll hear a lot of women say, yeah, I don't care, but that's just because they've never had it happen.
It all comes down to self-ID. When we moved into a self-ID process, there are a lot of people, there are a lot of men just simply self-IDing into being trans women to utilize the female restroom and to harm women. I think
Or
that's the biggest
just be
thing.
there. They're getting arousal from just being there.
You know, there was a photo or it was a video that went viral, I think like just 2 weeks ago, with some like whole man with a boner in the women's restroom. And there's just some poor woman filming it. Like, am I just supposed to like accept that this is here? So I think there's levels to it. I think that trans women who are actually trans, we're talking gender dysphoria, transitions, making the effort, probably once you reach a certain point in your transition where you can actually assimilate within that space and not cause a disruptance, that would probably be the ideal time to start doing that, right?
Right, and it's like, yo, if you look like Blaire White or someone like better looking than Blaire White, or like you look like a fucking woman, then all right. I mean, would you really want that person to go into a man's restroom? Probably not. So, yeah, if you pass as a woman, like as a real woman, then I'd be like, ah, if you're a lesbian or something, you still look like a fucking woman. But if you're a man and you put in the effort, hey man, go in that woman's bathroom, dude. You put in the work, you put in the time, that's your reward.
Whereas, a cross-dresser who is
Still can't play sports though, but yeah, you can go to the bathroom.
emboldened to, in this current climate, say that they're trans, because now anything is trans if you say so, that person should probably stay absolutely out of women's restrooms, because you're there to get your rocks off and the women are there to take a poop and a pee. So it's not the same. And I really empathize with women who have an issue with it, and I can probably hear some women commenting, well, how do I know the difference between a fetishist and a real trans person? It's hard. It's hard. However, that's the only nuance that I know to give to it, which is there's different reasons people are trans, and some people really are trans because they're horny, and some people are trans because they really felt that way from, a young age or whatever.
See, I agree to an extent. Like, when you go to transition, and this is a fairly universal experience, once you get to a certain point of passing, that's about the time that you would start going into the other bathroom, as opposed to not make the same sex uncomfortable. once you reach that point in your transition, a lot of things change, but you know, you start to see things from another perspective. You start to see things from the perspective of a cis person.
Yeah.
And I actually offer some solutions to this because I believe the free market can handle all of this stuff, because in government-run and government-funded buildings, there should always be a third space for us to use. And I do. When I go to the Capitol and stuff like that, I always use third spaces. But I think that private property owners can make the rules for their establishment and figure out how to.
True. Like government is supposed to be for all people, so yeah, they should probably have like a third option or whatever. Like you still can't make the woman feel uncomfortable, but you should have to in like government buildings. But in private businesses, it's a private business. They do whatever the fuck they want. If you don't want to go there, don't go there. The free market will sort itself out. Don't try to force it. Just let it happen.
Enforce those rules.
I mean, I
they're
wouldn't
not-
say
they're not
third
being allowed,
spaces for
though.
trans
Exactly.
people.
Like
just
we're in a state
in
right
general.
now. We're in a state right now where you have to allow anybody to use whatever restroom they want.
If you're a decent human being, you do what causes the least disturbance. So, for example, I filmed a YouTube video a few years ago where I entered a men's restroom just because I was just writing to comments who were like, well, maybe you should use a men's restroom if you really feel like the way you feel. And so I said, okay, let's do it. Let's put a camera. And I was kicked out within seconds of the entire establishment, and it was a whole ruckus. So that's what I mean by, if you're a decent person, you do what causes the least amount of problems for people around you. And if you're, you know, a moral person, you're going to be conflict avoidant in general when it's something like that, right? It's like, what's the point of causing issues for anyone, especially if you're really just trying to pee?
I think just put
Get
your
it
head
done.
down, go in, get out.
Right.
Can the disagreeers please step forward?
Here we go. Disagreement. What the fuck? Always a goddamn advertisement.
I want to comment on Blaire's point. The one thing I kept hearing through all of the nuance is passability.
I never
Because
said that.
ultimately,
It's a huge bitch. That's so big, nigga.
when we talk about passability, it determines how you get harassed in the bathroom. Because honestly, if you don't look so passable or whatnot, people are going to say, oh, that's a man with a dress on. And then there's going to be,
Hey, don't lie. This motherfucker looks like Medea, bro. Don't even lie. This motherfucker right there looks like Medea, bro. That's Medea. That's a Tyler Perry character, bro. The fuck out of here. Sorry, that's mean. Sorry.
discourse. But the reality of it is, honestly, who cares who's trans and who's cis going in the bathroom? You should be minding your own business, being able to pee and do your business in peace for the most part. That conversation around this man with a boner on or whatever like that, I saw that picture and I thought to myself, that's really a right-wing talking point and conservative propaganda.
A man walking in the bathroom, a woman's bathroom with a boner. That's a talking point. That's propaganda. No, nigga, that's what actually happened. What the fuck are you talking about?
Because that's their ideology
How is it
when
It
it
was a
comes
thing
to
that
trans.
happened.
I'm speaking. That's their ideology when it comes to trans. It's because conservatives have a basic level understanding of what transness is in the first place. And with all due respect, I do not think any of you are basic, but they use you as the baseline to amplifying this propaganda.
How is it propaganda if it's a thing that really happened? It was caught on video. Like, it was an actual occurrence. It wasn't staged. It happened, and that's not the only. It's not an isolated incident.
But that's not enough for me to say, because actors can do that. Who knows? They could have been an actor trying to make a.
So this nigga was like, all right. So Blaire White says this happened. Motherfucker said, it's fucking actor. Like, what are you talking about?
Point against trans people, but this has always been our battle. It's just like, from what I just heard you were saying with your talking points, because I did understand what you were saying. I just got the word passability out of there, and
Which I didn't say that word at all.
No,
Yeah,
I'm
no,
saying
he
that
said
word.
passability.
I'm saying
She didn't say it. He
I'm-
did. And the
I'll say
problem,
it.
the left.
Okay, I can't.
The
I
problem
couldn't
with
hear.
the-
I just couldn't hear it back there.
The
You know what I was
liberals,
saying
the
was.
liberals always use the.
Yeah. No, what I'm saying is, I'm not saying you said that word. What I was getting out of what you were saying, the one word that was coming to me was passability. This is Blossom saying it. And so passability politics is really a thing in our trans community, especially when we come to the debate of restrooms.
Well, you can say it's politics, but actually it's just real life, right? It's just about
Correct.
where
I
you're
agree.
able to assimilate to and where you're not. And I think one of the biggest problems in the trans community is the community by and large has seemed to reject assimilation and seems hell-bent on...
That's not true.
I think it's absolutely true, which is you see people...
All right, remember that right there. All right. Blaire says, uh, um, the left or whatever, they reject assimilation, right? And the Blossom says that's not true. But remember that Blossom said that's not true because it's going to come up later in this debate, okay? Just watch.
People talking about how you don't need to work on your transition at all to enter women's restrooms, and I think that that is so selfish.
That drives me
so
crazy.
it's so disregarding of women who may or may not feel
But
uncomfortable.
the trans woman experience is not monolithic. So who are we
I
to
never said it
police transness? Why are we policing other people's transness
I'm
and
just
how they
listening to
show up?
women.
We have to
But why
protect
are we-
women.
but why are y'all policing though? That's what I don't understand.
You're using
I-
words
it's
that we're not
policing.
using. It's not policing. We're listening
is
to women,
policing.
and if you have 50%, we won't say 50%, but if you have a large chunk of the population of women saying that they are uncomfortable with a certain thing, a good person leans in and listens.
So
They
why are
don't
you
just
not listening
reject
to
it.
other trans women, Blaire?
I
think
do
that's-
all day. I am right now.
But you didn't, and I'm not trying to be combative or whatever like that. I'm just trying to figure out, you know what I'm saying, what the middle ground would be between you and I, because you said one side and that's great, but what about the side of trans women? If we're not bringing both sides into this conversation,
Here's what I would say
then it
then.
is unbalanced.
Here's what I would say then, because I do understand both sides. I didn't, I'm almost a decade into my transition, which means I was one time a year in, 6 months in, 2 months in. So I understand that, but I also knew at the very beginning of my transition that if I'm not at a place physically where I'm not making people feel uncomfortable, or I'm making people uncomfortable, then
Right.
that's on me. That's my
Correct.
responsibility to make sure that I'm going places a certain way to make sure that they're comfortable.
Because it's for
It
your
was my
safety
respons-
also, too, right?
Well,
Would you also say
can-
that you're safe?
Well,
your
I
safety
know that
plays a part.
you seem to be looking at through the lens of always trans being the priority. I'm looking at through the lens of women being the priority here. There's
But
plenty of
why-
situations
Why? I just want to know
because
why
it's them who
around
would
that.
fall victim to.
Because it's the women's spaces, bro. Like, what do you mean, why? Like, I'm like, this is so frustrating, right? It's like motherfuckers say, oh, just look out for the trans people, right? How many of these motherfuckers are there in the world? And they just want to come in and say, hey, women, fuck you. This is our space now. Like how narcissistic do you have to be to just come in to someone's space and say, "Hey, we deserve more than you," or we are just like you, or this is our right to be here. It's not. It's their space. The fuck?
Not actual trans women, as I said, but people posing as trans women.
I have
People
an
who are
But trans women are
actually
also victims of that as well.
I'm sorry. I would love it if the two of you have said your piece, and I would love to hear
Yeah,
from the
everybody
audience.
Yeah, I
else
just
to
want to
talk.
make this
Nobody else
point.
is
I just
talking.
want to make this point as well. But trans women also experience violence and also need that
doubt.
protection. And so that's the
No
thing.
doubt.
Like, it should be an even playing field. I'm not saying
See, and this is why I said Blaire White takes on the fucking trans leftist because Blaire White is gonna be talking the most out of everybody. Like out of like all the people who are on the conservative side. Which makes sense because, she's been debating for fucking years. She's been doing this shit for years, so.
you're wrong, but what I'm saying is I would like to challenge you to expand to make sure you're being inclusive of both sides or whatever, because we have to have these important conversations between cis women and trans women.
I mean,
and I'm just gonna say, and I'm not gonna just say cis women, I'm gonna say women, biological women. I want to make it inclusive of everyone.
I think the middle ground, though, is, and I feel like I'm not coming at this from an extreme place. I feel like an extreme place would be like no trans women in the bathroom ever. That's the extreme position. I'm saying work on your transition, take it as your responsibility, and be respectful. And that's the middle ground, right?
This is a self-preservation issue, right? So if somebody's in the bathroom and they have a boner, that looks bad on all of us. And when people, and when our community's not calling that out and not saying that this is
But
wrong.
I'm just,
No,
to your
I get
point,
it.
how many cases has that occurred?
It happens a lot. We see it's happening all the time.
No, I
There-
have to
there are-
actually see.
there are-
I have to
there
actually
are
see
Twitter
data.
accounts.
I'm sorry, because I just want to make sure the back and
Yeah.
forth goes everywhere.
I mean, there's Twitter accounts with millions of followers that show this stuff multiple times
Okay,
a day.
now I know what we're talking about.
And so we're showing that these types of things do actually cause harm to trans people. So if you're looking at it at a trans lens and to say, what are we doing? We need to combat that stuff and come together to combat that
It does
stuff.
not encompass the entire trans experience.
No,
and
you're
that's all
right.
I just want to say.
Yeah, I think I see a lot of different points from everybody here. Honestly, like I can understand like how some women may feel
What the fuck
unsafe
is
with
even
men
that?
in the restroom. Men. When I say men, I mean men. I'm not talking about trans women. So being a non-binary person that sometimes has the choice to either go into a men's restroom looking like this. You can look at me looking
no,
like this.
it's just interesting. I thought this was a trans debate. That's
Oh,
what I
don't
thought.
even.
Non-binary
That's what I
people
thought.
are
I will
a part of the
follow
trans
the
experience.
Non-binary people aren't trans. What is trans? Transitioning. What are you transitioning to? If you're non-binary, that means you're neither. That means you're not transitioning to anything. You just don't want to be seen as either one. You're not transitioning anything. This motherfucker is just a gay man. Like, what's so wrong? What happened to that? Like, niggas used to be like, yo, you gay? That's so wrong. You fucked up. Fuck you for being gay. And then we was like, yo, you gay? You cool. Whatever. And now it's like, I don't want to be either. Like, nigga, what? Like, and then motherfuckers say something about the slippery slope all the fucking time. Like, nah, we on the slope. We on the down there. We going down that slope like a fucking bobsled team right now, bro. Like, we passed the slippery slope, bro. Like the fuck is this? Yo, just be gay, bro. No one cares. Why you gotta be non-binary? You're gay. You're fucking gay. Cool. You're gay. Who the fuck cares?
No, they don't.
Yeah. So I don't know. Maybe you could educate yourself a little bit
I
on
think
that,
I think I
and
could
maybe
educate
then you
you.
would figure out.
I think I could educate
you
you.
know what
right?
the reality is.
I'm
and what
sure
trans
there's
actually
a
means.
non-binary Jubilee episode.
What all these fucking advertisements, bro?
I think we're in an Airheads commercial. Want to skip?
Hold up. I am so tired of all these fucking advertisements. I am not buying a subscription to fucking YouTube, okay? Fuck this shit. Like that. It was like 3 so far.
Well, because it's not a debate about who is really trans and who is not.
It can be.
We're talking about restrooms.
Yo, these motherfuckers catty as shit, right? That's how you know they are. That's how you know they are either gay or women. So fucking catty, dude. Like this is crazy. That's why I'm just like, yo, some niggas are gay, some niggas might be feel like women, shit, because these motherfuckers act like women, except for the aggression. You know, a bunch of trans motherfuckers be aggressive as shit. That's that testosterone. It's that testosterone that I'm getting to 'em.
As a trans non-binary person, when I go into a place that only has men's and women's restrooms,
Wait,
and
how can you be trans and non-binary? That's so stupid. You can't say, "Hey, I want to transition to the other gender." What's the other gender? Non-binary. Nigga, that's not a gender, bro. Can't be trans and non-binary. The fuck?
dressed like this, my choice to go into the men's restroom at that point puts me in danger.
6 years ago, when I've transitioned almost 8 years ago, but 6 years ago, it was never an issue for me to use the women's room. Girls would literally drag me in there with them and say, "Girl, you need to be in our bathroom." And I was like, I felt uncomfortable back then. I don't pass. I know I don't pass, so that's a me problem. And I'm not gonna turn my fear of being attacked in the men's room into a woman's problem. It's still a me problem. So I need to work on myself. And it sucks. Does it suck? Yes, it sucks.
See, that's the difference between a fucking conservative and a fucking liberal, right? Because conservative would be like, yo, that's my issue, bro. I need to work on it for my fucking self. And then a liberal would be like, yo, that's everyone else's issue. Why aren't you doing this for me? No, work on your fucking shit by your fucking self. It's you. It's a you problem. You can't expect for society to fucking adhere to your fucking values or your principles or how you see your fucking self. It's how you see yourself. Fix yourself. The fuck? Fuck you. Not fuck this person, but fuck you. liberal?
I don't pass. I know I don't pass, but I still respect women enough, and some trans people aren't capable of handling themselves against a man, but I am confident in my ability to do that. And not everybody can, I get that. But it's just now, 6 years ago, I used to use the women's room. Now I don't, because women have spoke out. They've come out and said, we're not.
How many flies do they have in this fucking studio, bro? I'm seeing everybody swatting and shit. Yo, it's Jubilee, bro. I know y'all make a lot of money. You got 400 and what? 400,000, 490,000 views on this fucking video. And that's one damn day. One damn day. Get the flies out of the studio, bro. Get them out of
Not
there.
comfortable. There's too many self-ID'd people out there just taking advantage. And I choose to use the men's room to protect them.
I can definitely actually almost empathize with a lot of trans women and their experience in the bathroom and a lot of the turmoil with going in and, you know, especially with passability. But the layer that I feel like in the conversation that's missing here is actually trans men. And also the fact that I was born biologically female, and a lot of the things that trans women experience of violence in the bathroom is what I experienced as a child. So the reason why my education here is not necessarily to create an idea that I need to conform to Eurocentric standards. Myself, I'm a 6 foot tall trans man, size 13 shoe, so I don't fit into the Eurocentric standards of what a woman is, and I never did as a child. I was, you know, bullied relentlessly for this and isolated from many spaces. So this discussion about trans women being in the restroom also affects biological women, because guess what? You know, biological women come in all shapes and sizes. There are, you know, a lot of lesbian women that deal with this issue that I've related with and empathize, because we both get pulled out of the restroom and thrown, and guys try to beat us up because we're in a restroom with women.
X the doubt, right? That shit, like, people say that shit happens all the fucking time. I doubt it. It doesn't. It doesn't. I'm pretty sure it happens because, you know, probability and shit. I'm sure it happens, but motherfuckers say, oh, it happens like every fucking day. This is just something that gay people and trans people gotta fucking deal with. Bullshit.
And then on top of it, to add that layer that it's not even being discussed in any mainstream, that this is just completely wiped out, and that you're standing up for women, but you're not standing up for women children. You're not standing up for biological females that are children. You're only standing up for what really affects you. And it's kind of sad that the idea that passability is you need to work on your transition. A lot of folks, especially in our community, have no access to finances, resources, jobs, to even get their foot in the door to get access to hormones. So you're putting all of these barriers just for them to be able to go to the restroom, which is a natural thing that we all have to do. So what do I need to do? Piss outside? Because that's how I was treated my entire childhood.
I would. I just feel like when this whole topic comes up,
If you put barriers on everything, bro. Like, men can't go in the women's bathroom. Oh, I got a barrier. Oh, fuck off.
like,
You look like a dude now. Cool. Go in the dude's restroom. No one gives a fuck. And honestly, dudes wouldn't give a fuck if a woman goes into a dude's restroom. Most of the time, we wouldn't give a fuck.
obviously goes back to like, there's dudes like jerking off in the back.
The only reason why we would give a fuck is because women take a long ass time in the bathroom. Like, yo, why the fuck are these girls in the bathroom slowing us down? Bro, that's the one thing that happened when they start doing like the gender neutral bathrooms in like New York and fucking Philly and shit. And fucking Baltimore. They start doing that shit, and all the male lines got long as fuck, bro. That shit is so annoying.
Bathroom, and like, to me, like, when I hear that, I'm like, okay, like, but that's not trans women. So when we talk about this conversation, and it seems like the fear is like literally cisgender straight men who are being creeps. And what sucks is cis straight men can be like creepy, and then it's like trans women, trans men are like paying the price for that. And I feel like, you know what, that's what's really hard about it, is because then I think people get the idea, or some people have the belief trans women are just like, they're just men in dresses, you know what I mean? But at the end of the day, like, for so many trans women and so many trans men, the safest place for them is the bathroom that aligns with their gender. And if you go to a place where it's illegal to do that, or you have to go and like, what's your ID, or like your birth certificate, it puts you in an objectively unsafe situation. And for me, like, I'm like, if I walk in the women's room, I mean, I know I like look like I look 12, but like, I feel like someone would be like, get out of here, you know what I mean? But like, that's the vibe. Like, I think
you got to remember, like, when we're talking about it and we're talking about, like, these creepy dudes, like, in the bathroom.
Here's
they're
the
not
middle
trans
ground.
women.
Here's the middle.
If a man walks into a woman's bathroom, you look like a creepy dude going into a woman's bathroom. It don't matter what you doing. Right? If you look like a guy and you go into a woman's bathroom, you look like a fucking creep. If I just walk into a woman's locker room, I look like a fucking creep because I'm walking in. Why am I walking in there? The fuck? That's so weird.
Middle ground. Y'all ready? We're gonna be so happy with this. This is the middle ground. We all actually agree. It's men that are the problem.
Yep.
It's not trans women, real trans women. However, the problem is our community has really eroded any barriers to actually being trans in the sense of your average cross-dresser can identify as a trans woman.
But then it's not a trans woman.
Well, I'm glad you feel that way. I feel that way as well. I agree with you wholeheartedly. However, with the state of the political correctness within the trans community, you can't really say that. Like that person
is this person saying
and their
they're
self-ID.
No,
They say that they're trans, but they're a cross-dresser.
I actually do agree with you, Blaire, 100%.
take my
Because
back.
Wow.
that's one of those things. Yeah, I told you, I'm
Let's
really
go.
like that.
Oh my God.
And the reason why I say that is because sometimes when we self-identify, some people can take advantage of that, and that is something, unfortunately, that we cannot control. But
Look at this. I bet this dude would even be like, all right, in a bathroom, right? In a woman's bathroom. Because I'd be like, dude, go in a woman's bathroom. Like, I wouldn't say it like I don't give a fuck what bathroom you. I'm like, you look like you're putting in enough effort. Go into you got the pass, okay? Go into the woman's bathroom. No one gives a fuck. I'm pretty sure a woman would be like, yeah, I see it. You're like if you look like this, I don't know what the fuck nigga look like on a daily basis, but you look like this, like a big Serena Williams, you get it.
we have to combat it with facts, with research, and with the information that's presented in front of us. It seems like we're the ones that's teaching everybody else because we live in a predominant cis world. We're teaching them about us. And I just
Who the fuck are you to teach us about you? You're like the 1%, if that. Like, you think you're gonna change us? You think you have the right to change what we think? Oh, I am 10 minutes, 16 minutes in. Let's keep this going. Enough pause.
just really think we cannot afford to be intellectually dishonest about our experiences as trans people.
There is something that I think we can do. There's solutions to this. Like I do think that something like you have to be on hormones or something like that for 2 years or something before you can even change your ID, like across the board. That would eliminate the cross-dressers from being able to go there, because then you can say, hey, my ID says this, and you can, and so it shows that you've actually taken steps. It's not about passability. It's about how long you've actually been taking the steps to transition.
Are you still wearing enough layers to insulate Alaska?
Okay, but it should be about passability.
Support the transgender military ban. Agreeers?
Hey man, combat readiness, right?
I think that oftentimes,
Like, hold up, before they get into it. Like, you gotta think about combat readiness. You have a mental illness, so why would you be going in there? You can't go into the military if you got depression, anxiety. You can't go in there if you're flat-footed. Why would you go in there when you got serious mental illness that causes you to have to take pills, do fucking elective surgery and all this shit? You shouldn't be in the military. Like, that's bold.
when you talk about trans people in the military, people forget that most places, if we're talking about feet on the ground and really going into war zones, are really dangerous for trans people. And so it's really an extra risk.
You're talking about the culture that exists over there.
Yeah, the Middle East, you know, it's like that's not exactly
the
trans
friendliest
friendly.
place
It's
for
actually
us,
the
yes.
opposite. The medications that we take sometimes put us in conflict with being able to actually be combat ready. But there is some nuance here, obviously. Like if there was a trans cook or a trans medic, I'm not exactly going to be upset. But for the most part,
I mean, Blaire, I mean, yeah, medics are on the front line too, but I get what you're saying.
To combat.
I hate supporting, like what you just said, I hate supporting it because it goes to the narrative of the should athletes compete in sports, you know,
Wow.
but
trans athletes?
yeah,
They
the
shouldn't.
drugs we take do weaken us, you know, so we're not, like you just said, combat ready, but we're also not as physically strong as the guy counterparts standing.
or mentally strong. How can you say that someone who is like trans people have a high suicide rate, right? Why the fuck would you want that type of person in the military? That
Right
makes
next
no
to us.
And I
sense.
will say, like, as a person with HIV, I was diagnosed at 18.
Damn.
I couldn't go into the military,
Why are you fucking that young?
because I couldn't get Biktarvy overseas.
I'm joking.
You know?
Yeah,
Or
so
adult.
I will say, as probably the only person that served in the military on this
Yeah.
entire
Yeah,
panel,
You should have spoke first.
it's okay. The thing about it is, I think that there is a lot of nuance in this. I actually have friends that are currently serving in the military. I think there was a lot of misrepresentation of what the trans ban actually did. You know, you have soldiers, if you have surgeries, they go on profile, which means they can't actually do their job. They can't do PT. If you have bottom surgery, it takes a year. And so as a leader, that person's filling a position of a job of somebody that should be doing it. I don't mind somebody who is actually on hormones going there, because there's a lot of people, I mean, people take PTSD medications overseas. They actually take 6 months of medication with them. So a full out ban I don't necessarily support, because I think that everybody in the military, as long as you can do your job, you can go in there and nobody really cares. But it is those times when, if you can't perform your job, that becomes an issue. You talk about with HIV, actually, most people don't even realize this. If you contract HIV while you're in, you can stay in a non-deployable job.
Right. And then also, you know, if we want to just get super real, you have the trans suicide rate. And if you really want to compound that by the veteran suicide rate, that's not exactly a concoction for very positive results. So I see how a trans ban could actually benefit us. And Lord knows I'm not trying to get drafted. So yeah, I'm all good with that.
Period. Yeah.
I think it's very discriminatory to keep trans people out of the military. We pay our bills here.
Oh my God, the military is all about discrimination, bro. God damn, bro. You got flat feet? No entrance. You're depressed? No entry. No, 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 no. You got any fucking mental like debilitating mental illness? No say. No, 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 you can't go in. It's discriminatory. Hiring, period, is discriminatory, right? You discriminate all the time. I don't know why people act like that's such a fucking bad thing. Discrimination, it sounds bad, but you know, you discriminate all the time. You discriminate on who you date. You discriminate on who you want to be, who you want to be friends with, right? Bro, what are you talking about?
We pay our taxes here. We are Americans. We deserve to serve this country as well.
You don't deserve to do shit. What the fuck you mean deserve? You can try. You don't deserve it. Just for being a American, you don't deserve to go into the military. And a lot of people in the military shouldn't be in the military because they're just doing it for fucking money, or they're just doing it for like their citizenship, or they just doing it to fucking get free healthcare or some shit. Do it because you love the fucking country and you want to protect it. Those the type of people that we should have in. It's a long shot. A lot of people won't join in, but those are the type of people you want. You want people to want to die for the country. No, not want to. But they're not. I don't want you to be like, yeah, I'm going to die for my country. No, 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 no. I want you to be like, I would die for my country if I had to.
However, you all did raise some great points about the concern and safety of trans people. And I do agree that something does need to be done about that to protect us. Who's protecting us in the military? Who is?
I mean, if you're even diagnosed with like mild social anxiety, you're not eligible to enter the military. If you have like a crooked left, you know, pinky toe, you're not eligible. So discriminatory, I mean, that word sounds pretty in today's climate, very much like, oh no, discrimination, but it's not always bad. Sometimes it's for the safety, and it's like, you know, when it comes to the military and when it comes to keeping America safe, that has priority over anyone's feelings being hurt.
Discrimination is discrimination, and I don't think there's
It's not always a
any other
negative
way
thing,
around
though.
it.
Well,
It's
when-
still
when you say
discrimination.
That doesn't mean it's
protect
negative, though.
Our troops over there, while they're over there, you're talking, or protect them before so they can get in.
Both. It is important to protect all trans people in the military.
Well, we can't waste
And so what if the best
resources
way to protect them
protecting
is not putting them in the Middle East with Muslims that are going to kill them?
Well, I just want to interject your point about suicide. So, as somebody who has worked in community service with community members directly, a lot of their suicide issues actually revolve around access to finances. And the military is one of the highest employers of transgender people.
What does that even mean? Right? The military is one of the highest employers of everybody. No shit, it'd be the highest employee, whatever, of trans people. Because they employ everybody the most. What the fuck? It's that damn military.
So, we actually see the suicide rate drop. And
Well,
for me
that's a good
personally,
point, but it's one of the highest employers of anybody.
But if you're
I am just so tickled pink that they keep repeating what I say.
suicidal
I'm joking, I already saw this. But I was thinking it when that's not the first time.
and you go into a job that has a high likelihood of PTSD, causing PTSD and all these other issues, then it becomes a big issue because then you already have one mental illness, and then you're compounding it with more.
And when you're on, a very strict regimen of, if you're trans and if you're really trans, and we can get into who's really trans later because I'm gonna have a lot to say about that. But if you're gonna be on hormones, right, you're not always gonna have access.
She's talking about the person that's sitting right next to you.
As to those,
like I know, yo, you know, Blaire White just throwing shots at that dude because he's just sitting there like I'm trans too, but I'm also non-binary.
drugs when you're deployed and when you're in those situations. That's why I say if you're, a line cook or something, if you're whatever, that's one thing. But if we're talking about combat, you're not exactly going to have access to your testosterone blockers and your
How do you know that? Because medical
they
care
don't have
is
those kind of
covered in
pharmacies in the Middle East.
Medical care is covered in the military, so
Because they don't have that shit while you're in battle, while you're in combat. They don't have that shit. What are you gonna do? Like, the fuck? All right, so it's this person proposing that we just build a trans facility on every military base overseas or every forward operating base or every fucking whatever, like in battle. You'd be like, hand me my HRT. Hand me my testosterone while I'm getting shot at.
they should have access to that. So that is false information.
and also, you guys are forgetting the fact. Well, hold on. You guys have all forgotten the fact of what is the flip side for these transgender individuals that are signing up for the military and they're taken out, and that was their life plan.
Yeah, no one was really taken out. They weren't kicked out of the military. They were still in the military. But if the person means like, I don't know what you mean. But
where are they supposed to work and where is their employment supposed to be?
No,
because
I
the
agree,
mental
but-
illness that
I
happens
agree, it's
through
horrible.
homelessness and the lack of resources
agree,
that
it's
come.
horrible.
So
Correct.
that is also
They
the
actually-
flip side of that. So if folks
but they
don't
didn't
have,
kick
hold
anybody
on
out.
one second, but if they don't have access to a job that could offer them
Take your
support
job.
and research and access to medication, access to benefits, lifetime benefits, that's something that most transgender people in any sector of any
So
job.
do you want an answer to your question, or are you just going to round? Because I can answer. You said, what about those people that were kicked out? I actually think it's bad if you are someone who was in it and you really are, because just like, Sarah, and I've met many trans veterans that I've paid respect to publicly on social media, and I think that's amazing, actually. So if you're kicked out and it was once, the norm
But
that
what's
you
the
could,
resources you're
I'm
offering them,
speaking
though?
though. If you're kicked out and it once was the norm for you to participate in the military, that's sad. But at the same time, if that is what is determined for the ultimate safety and effectiveness of the military, nothing should come before that.
Blaire, have you ever
Because the
worked
second
directly
bomb,
with
because the
trans
second
people?
bomb.
Have you ever worked
I
directly?
am right now.
No,
We're
directly
surrounded by
in
them.
services in terms of nonprofits
Sir,
and actually
she's a
getting
trans person.
clientele.
She's not
That's my
grassroots.
entire
She is
career.
not a grassroots
Not
person
grassroots.
because truth be told, a lot of our
What does that
community
even mean?
is in grassroots.
Have you ever had a
Nonprofit
client list of
organizations that are
transgender people that you
trans-led. Hold
actually
on just
took
a
care
second.
of
Hold
them?
on just a second.
Took care of them, like what, like
Trans-led
paid their
or-
bills? No,
I'm
I don't
sorry,
Offering them
excuse me,
services, getting them through
I've helped a
services.
lot of trans people in my life,
Trans-led
yes.
organizations that are ran by trans people. I really want to see what you've done for those organizations because I don't see any of y'all on the front line.
I'm on
The front line, like
fighting
what are you
against the-
talking about?
I'm
I've
on the front
dedicated,
line.
hold on. I've dedicated my entire life to, in my own.
Oh shit, that person sounds fucking stupid. Just because, all right, and this goes with anything. Just because you're not down getting dirty in the trenches doesn't mean you're not doing anything to help, right? You can be doing online shit, and you can be doing like you can even like give donations. That's always a good help to some people. I wouldn't say give it to them because these motherfuckers just some fucking activists. I mean, like the wrong kind of activists. Like you're trying to get men into women's spaces type shit. That's so fucking weird. But you don't have to be directly like in front of someone's face to help out the group of people you're trying to help out. If that was the case, then anybody who ever like gave money to like fucking dead puppies or dying puppies, whatever, like the homeless shelters or shit like that. Like if you ever donated money, this person would be like, you're not doing shit.
Way, and you can disagree with it because we all have our vehicles and our methods towards promoting trans acceptance and the ultimate progression of the quality of life of trans people. I've dedicated my entire life to that, right? I access millions of people every single month on all my social media. And I have people reaching out all the time saying that I've saved them from, just like we mentioned, suicide.
What are you physically doing?
Physically.
See, Blaire White just said, I had given, just taken Blaire's word for it, that I help people. I have people saying that I've saved them from committing suicide, right? And this motherfucker says, what are you doing physically? The fuck?
Have you ever taken on a client loan? Have you ever had someone come to you homeless and give them resources?
I'm sure you guys feel very, you guys are asking questions and you have no interest in the answer. I'm sure you guys are very, very proud of the fact that you can walk.
In circles, Blaire. That's what we're saying.
How could it be a circle when I haven't answered the question at all because you keep speaking? I'm sure you guys are very proud that you can enter a building and work with 25 people at a time. I access millions every month, babe. That's what I do. You know,
it's really disappointing that you would ever equate community service.
This is disappointing, actually.
It's disappointing that you would disrespect all of the people that are in community service and all of these social.
You just disrespected her. That's how you know that's a fucking woman, right? You do something, then something happens to you. You're like, oh, why are you attacking me?
Workers that actually do help trans people.
And it's really disappointing that you guys are disrespecting what the fuck I do, right?
When you say something about what is grassroots, that's the problem that I feel that some trans
you're using a
influencers are
metaphor for
disconnected.
something that's
That is not a
They're
metaphor.
gonna speak in platitudes
That
the
is
whole
a
time. That's
tangible
what they're gonna do.
resource organization. Because if you, this is where y'all's privilege come in. Because if y'all don't need
My privilege?
services,
My
from
content is a
trans-
resource.
If you do not need
First
services
of all,
from
ma'am, don't come from my
nonprofits
privilege.
that are trans-led, you have
I was raised by
privilege
drug
and you
addicts. I have HIV.
I'm sorry.
I create the resources.
I would rather
I create
work
the
with
resources. My
detransitioners
content
than
is a
trans
resource.
people. So we're going to work with detransitioners who actually need our help.
But we're not talking about military.
Oh my God.
Give you another one, but I'm going to give you one more chance.
It's the condescension for me, you know.
I will take a step back and let other people have an
I feel
opinion.
like so like Blaire said, like when you want to go into the military, like they gotta like check you out and like, are you fit to go into the military, whatever. For that reason, I don't feel like a ban on trans people in the military is necessary, because I feel like who's ready to go to combat and who's ready to go in, like they'll get in. I think there are people who are like able to do that, maybe people who aren't. And I feel like that will be determined without just a ban across the board. And yeah.
So it wasn't actually a full ban, though. That's what people don't realize, okay? So
You can still enlist.
Nobody got kicked out of the military. They didn't kick a single person out of the military who came forward and had gender dysphoria. Two, it was actually easy. It's more open to serve under the ban than it was under Don't Ask, Don't Tell.
Yeah.
Okay? So you could actually be a trans person and present however you wanted off duty. You could go to a ball in a dress and nobody cared, and they couldn't kick you out. And serving in the military, it's not a right. They can disqualify you for any reason, physical, anything. People get kicked out all the time because they can't pass PT tests.
Right.
And overseas, yeah, you don't necessarily have access to refrigerators for your testosterone or any of that other stuff. So if you're taking injections, it's a lot different.
I'm supposed to refrigerate it?
I don't know. I don't take
And
testosterone.
that's going to melt in the Middle Eastern sun, believe that. That estradiol is going to be blue goo.
Hormones are not always refrigerated. Let's just make that clear.
Well, my concern would be that, like, who's joining the military not to serve in the country, but only to get the cheaper drugs and the paid-for surgery. And I don't want that trans person
Okay,
defending
who's
our
joining the
country.
military because they got a woman pregnant and they just need to pay their bills. There's so
I
many
don't
different
want that
reasons why
person
people
either,
join the
because I
military.
want
And also,
dedicated
there are
people.
easier
I
ways
want
to get
dedicated people that want to defend the country that I live in.
There are
and
easier
protect
ways to get drugs.
us.
There are easier ways to get drugs, and to join the military, that's a big commitment to
Let's
get
just
drugs.
put it this way. There are far
do it
less
for high school, too,
debilitating
or
things that will
education.
disqualify you from access to the military than trans. And if you want to put it on a scale, trans is one of those things that for a lot of people is quite debilitating, whether it's mentally, physically, whatever. If you have, you know, social anxiety, if you have depression, any of these things that are less mentally taxing than gender dysphoria, all those things, then why is it that we should have like a go around because we're trans? I go with what the generals say. I go with what the people at the top say. This is what is the most effective way to have our military.
Just not General Milley.
I just really
Just
hope
not
that the
General
people
Milley.
at the
No,
top
not
that you're-
him. You know what I mean?
just
It's
really hope
levels
that
to
the
that,
people-
too.
I just really hope that the people at the top that you're referring to aren't transphobic, because let's be clear, the isms.
Oh, fuck does that even mean? This motherfucker say calling that guy that's in a fucking that just got hella makeup on, not trans, is transphobic. Transphobia doesn't exist anymore. Just like racism doesn't exist anymore because these motherfuckers watered down those words so much that they basically mean anything that these motherfuckers don't like.
That are in the
God.
military.
Man, we live
that
in
a lot of
America.
us face.
People are allowed
Excuse me,
to
I'm
be.
speaking. Do not interrupt a black trans woman when she's speaking.
You've
Let's be
interrupted
very
me
clear
hella
when it comes
times.
to when
Hella
it comes
times.
to isms.
Did the interrupter just
Again,
say
if you
use
are
her
black,
skin tone
if
to
you
say
are
you couldn't
black,
interrupt her?
if you are black and
That's
trans
amazing.
and you want to go into the military, I am quite sure that my experience would not look the same as y'all's. And if we
See, and these motherfuckers think that everybody just looks at their skin color. Only time somebody look at your skin color if you mention your skin color, bro. Niggas be looking at people like normal, and then you be like, oh, as a black, blah blah blah. It's like, shut the fuck up. No one gives a shit that you're black. Care that you're an idiot.
can't wake that up, then we're really being complicit.
They don't look
I
at
don't,
your
I don't
race.
think I don't think your
But you-
skin tone makes any difference.
Well,
As somebody,
yes, it does.
No,
Well,
as
but it
somebody, no,
doesn't.
as somebody who's
But it
serving in the
doesn't.
military,
For you to
as
tell a
somebody
black
who- no,
person that
as-
is so
as somebody who's serving,
problematic. For you
as-
to
Why
tell
do
a
you have
person
to
of
put
color
black in
here,
front of it?
because I
This motherfucker is saying, as someone who's black, and this, oh, dude, Sarah, sorry, whatever. I want to respect the identities of the people I agree with. Nah, no, I'm joking. But this black motherfucker will be like, as someone who's black, other dudes like, hey, as someone who actually served in the fucking military, I'm telling you, they don't give a fuck.
this is my experience and this is my reality. First of all,
It has
that
nothing
is
to do
so
with your transness,
disrespectful
though.
to tell a person
I'm
of
gonna have an
color, a
aneurysm.
black person, how they should feel. How dare you sit up here
Okay,
and
well,
say
no,
that?
it's disrespectful
as
for you
somebody
to
who's
tell a white
serving-
Hold on,
person
just
that.
You
a second. Let me
screamed
finish
at
my
him,
point.
and you
I
just
did not
screamed.
scream
Yes,
at a
you
point.
did.
No,
No, you're
you
being
wanted me to come
disrespectful.
back.
Rewind the tape,
You
you
wanted me
screamed.
here and I'm
You
here.
screamed.
So what you
Rewind
gonna
the
do?
tape, that was good.
You wanted me here, so I'm
Replay.
here. You in
Right,
particular.
so be
So
calm
let's
down
go.
and speak like
No,
a
it's not
person.
my-
What are
it's
you
not my
talking
fault.
about?
It's not my fault that y'all don't understand respect.
Let's pause.
You're
Oh
interrupting.
my God.
Can you please stop?
Okay.
We're good.
You need to calm down.
No, you do, honey.
My God, someone get a Xanax for her.
Oh, keep it cute, girl. Keep it real cute.
Oh,
Your
that's
bodyguard's
inappropriate,
outside,
but the rest
keep
of
it
shit
real
isn't.
cute,
Okay.
ma'am.
The rules are you cannot speak when somebody else is speaking.
Fair.
Let's see how long that lasts. Ah! Catty women in this whole thing. A lot of them. Let's see how long that lasts.
Okay?
Aw.
We haven't found a middle ground. That's okay.
I think we did.
Okay?
I feel like there was a little bit
Yeah,
mixed in there.
See,
Yeah,
like
I
that.
agree with what y'all were saying. It wasn't really like I thought it was great.
So
or what
imagine
was
when we
compatible.
disagree.
Read in the blue. He's cool. You know, he sounds like he's listening, and whenever he comes to the middle, he's like, you know what? After listening to what y'all say, I kind of agree. So he's actually listening to understand. These other motherfuckers just listening to respond.
Agree, that'll be fun.
I feel like it was really interesting hearing your perspective about being in
See?
the military, and I don't know if there's really like a true middle ground found, but I feel like
Yeah.
I have like a better understanding of kind of where you're coming from with it.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of points make sense, and it's also an issue that is hard to get a definitive answer and agreement on.
Everybody doesn't have the same struggle, and that does include in the military. Some people in our community have to go through much more extremes than others. And so for me, my question becomes, how are they being taken care of? Especially when a trans person comes out in the military, yeah, we have these things enacted, but that doesn't mean that in reality and in physical time that they're being treated under what is in the law that's supposed to protect them. So that's where I'm coming from or whatever, because reality and what's on paper are two different things.
But they are. So this is, again, the culture of the military. This is a debate that we have as civilians that the military doesn't have, okay? Just plain and simple. If you can do your job, nobody cares who you are, what you do, what your extracurricular activities outside of the military are. All they care is that they can count on the person to the left and right of them. And again, like I said before, in the very beginning, if you can't deploy and you can't go do your job, then there's really not a big reason for you to be there.
And to agree with your point, I'm not in the military, nor am I a military general, but I trust that military generals know how to get their troops deployment ready. And if someone is able to go through all the rigorous steps, take out the trans, but they've been able to meet medical, health, all of the hoops that need to be met, I don't see any reason to take away someone's opportunity to serve this country and to be proud of serving this country, because being American is something to be proud of.
Yeah, and like the trans ban didn't actually do that. Like I said before, you just couldn't go actually like take hormones and transition while you were in, and it was a lot different because I served in 2010 to 2011 before Don't Ask, Don't Tell was repealed, so I know what it was like before that as well.
And I totally agree with what you're saying. So there's some middle ground.
There's some middle ground there. Let's go, people.
Group hug.
Schools should include trans conversation in sex ed.
Join our Middle Ground Patreon to watch this exclusive prompt.
Do not buy solar panels if you live in one of these 11
Call me now for a free bomb crateering.
For minors to get top surgery.
It's okay for minors to get top surgery.
Really?
Fuck no.
You guys waited on
Disgusting.
That's pretty vile.
Disgusting.
Like, the vibe is like, I like as someone who had top surgery and went on hormones, like it's a very emotionally intense experience. I think in terms of like minors getting surgery, like the reason why I'm not like no to that is because I feel like maybe someone's like 17 or something. I honestly feel like it is a really intense surgery, but I feel like if somebody's like 17 or like late 16 and like feels like it's right for them, I mean, like people are really different. I know for me, like top surgery when I was like 16 would have been like so good, and it would have literally like saved my spinal cord from like binding all the time. That's why I'm like, yeah, like I feel like in instances like it can make sense.
So I'm not a trans man, so I don't have the experience or whatnot, but I do think that it has.
Wait, isn't binding like when they try to like make their boobs go away? Right? I gotta look this up, man. I don't know. Let's see. Chest bindings. Chest binding is compact about blah, blah, blah. Oh, yeah, flattening your chest. Okay.
Has to be done safely. There is a process when it comes to having these types of gender-affirming surgery.
That's not really a problem that's caused naturally. That's a problem that you cause yourself, that you're saying that other people should solve. Nah. You shouldn't be, like, if you got all those problems because of what you did to your own body. Like, what you talking about?
Surgeries, you know what I'm saying? Talking with your parents and then going to endocrinologists and going through therapy to make sure this is right for you. People have a choice to their autonomy. Now, I know that everybody does not, but those that do or whatnot should choose with the right medical education.
Yeah.
They should choose with safety and with full understanding of what is a benefit and what may not be a benefit.
I agree with a caveat that there does need to be some sort of process, which there is, by the way, in place.
Yes, absolutely.
Sometimes does it slip through? Yes, things happen because, again, as I said earlier, this is a big world. But to, again, negate people the ability to walk through a door that you have walked through, I'm going to say this again, and then close it behind you, is a little bit of a slap in the face for anybody who's seeking transition.
Yeah.
And as somebody who has experienced top surgery and also waited quite a bit of time, a lot of severe damage actually was created to my rib cage that my wife, who is half my size, actually has the same size rib cage in the back as mine. And these are permanent damage to my body because I binded for about 8 years. And
That's your fault. What? The fuck are these people talking? That's your fault. That's something. Okay, so then you're just making an argument that kids shouldn't be doing that either. What the fuck are you doing that for? You want breast reduction? Get breast reduction. You want to lose your boobs? Lose them after you're 18.
there's even still issues that I have with breathing and certain issues that I face that, you know, unfortunately, if I had that surgery a lot earlier, I would have a better posture. I'd have a lot of pain that is not within my body that I have to deal with on a daily basis, while simultaneously the idea that, you know, I get maybe under 16 top surgery would be something that would possibly even make me a little uncomfortable. But I also know that I was homeless at 16, paying my own rent, and left my home at 16 and had to live my life as an adult very early. So I was able to make those decisions for myself. But I think.
Fuck does that have to do with the vast majority of 16-year-olds? Fucking 18-year-olds are fucking stupid. Like, what are you talking about?
I think it's weird that others can't seem to see that I could make a medical decision for myself when I had to physically take care of myself. And I look at some of these younger kids, and there's a sense of jealousy there and excitement for them at the same time because they now have access to memories and being in the space and being in a comfortable body that, you know, I had a lot of isolation growing up in my childhood because I didn't feel comfortable to present in a female space or a male space. I was isolated constantly from school, from the outside world, from my family. And my transition, my top surgery has done nothing but take physical pain off my body, especially with as large chested as I was and having to bind for as many years as I did.
You didn't have to bind. You didn't have to bind. You chose to do that to your body, and you're saying, "Hey, we need to like that's your problem. You did it to your body. You fucked up your body. Now you're complaining that you fucked up your own body. What the fuck is wrong with you? Just to look a different way. You fucked up your body. That's like somebody saying, "Oh, I wore this corset for so long, and now, uh, uh, I got my spine is fucked up and my ribs are fucked up because I was wearing corsets for so long." It's such a problem that we go through. Don't wear the fucking corset. Like, don't bind. What the fuck are you talking about?
I don't think any minor should be having life-altering elective surgery or life-altering elective medicalization, period. And so when I work on bills across the country that do ban this for minors, there's a couple things I point out. I point out that I don't think a 16-year-old female who wants breast implants should be able to get that either. When we look at what we allow minors to do, like surgeries and stuff like that, they're not life-saving. They're not, if you don't get it, you're not going to die. It's not like getting, like, having appendicitis and having to get your appendix removed or anything like that. It's elective. I think that's the key point here.
Agree.
My thing about surgery, I'm actually vehemently against surgery, like all of it, top surgery, bottom surgery, all of it. Particularly because you need your genitals. Like, it's just that simple.
Hello.
You know, you have these people now who have non-functioning fake penises and vaginas that, you know, you've had issues like, for instance, Richie had where, like, your urethra folds in half and then you can't pee no more.
This is about.
Are you against top surgery too? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, just surgery in general. I don't think that that's necessarily like you said. It's not like you have appendicitis. It's not like you've got like a bone spur. It's, you know, like you don't.
I disagree with that because I was in
surgery,
physical pain, and the moment that I got that top surgery, the pain was
well,
alleviated.
that means you needed a breast reduction, my friend.
No, it's just binding, dude. Binding goes crazy.
I mean, I binded for 8 years. I know, like, it sucks.
I know, but like if you just keep binding, like honestly, like my ribs are like, I'm like, ew, I hate my ribs. Like they're all like messed up.
Is that an issue with safety of binding though?
These people are saying, "Hey, I'm gonna say it again." These people are like, "Oh, it's such an issue. It fucked me up real bad." But that's your problem. You did it to yourself. That makes no sense. You did it to yourself, and now you're saying there's a problem. Shit. Hold. Work never stops.
I'm actually curious
Yeah,
about
like
this.
honestly,
it's the
but
safety
the
of,
thing
of
is
how
too,
they
like
teach you to
I
bind?
think it comes with like the size of your chest. So like I had a big chest, so like
Same.
I had it was the only way. You know what I mean?
Same.
And I did try and like bind like safely, and I did.
It's the only way. It's not the only option you had. You didn't have to do it. You didn't have to fuck up your body. Like my body is a little fucked up right now because when I was younger, I used to do parkour. I used to skateboard. I used to do a bunch of shit that fucked up my body. Did I have to do it? It's a problem with skateboarding. Am I going to complain that now that I fucked up my body, that my body feels like body feels a little stiff? No. I'm trying to do something about it. I go to the gym and shit. I try to make up for it. I ain't going to complain. Motherfuckers complain about the problem that they created. It's fucking stupid.
By like reputable like binder brands, but it is a lot when you're doing it for a really long time
I
and
used to wear it
ultimately
for 3
like.
days straight.
I know, me too. Like,
And
and that's what's like you're not supposed to.
Was
but
was your doctor telling you that that's not safe because you're not even supposed to wear
yeah,
it
of
24
course.
hours?
My doctor's
straight,
old
right?
school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you know, and I
6
did
to
have
8
to go
hours is-
through like for top surgery and testosterone. Like I had to go through like a really big process, and I think that's my thing is like instead of an age thing, I think there's like there should be a process. You should have to like live as that gender and be seeking care and be having like a therapist for long term and a psychiatrist for long term and an endocrinologist for long term, and like it's really like specific to the person, and I think would be like really rare anyway. But that's just my stance.
That I agree with to an extent.
This is definitely the prompt that I am the most passionate about because I think there are few things more vile, more irresponsible, more, dangerous than saying a child can consent to permanently removing a body part that serves an extremely important function. Detransitioners all over the country can never breastfeed their children if they can even have them, because if they did other things, that can stop them from having kids at all, right? The idea that a child can consent to a sex change, to gender-affirming surgery.
Good nights give unbeatable protection against bedwetting. Awesome days start with good nights.
This evil is something different.
If you believe that, there's really nothing that you can believe they can't consent to, right? Because that's pretty extreme. That's a permanent body modification under the best circumstances. So you want to move aside all the complications, all the things you can't do, the sterilization, not being able to feed your kids. You can even set that aside. Just the permanent body modification, I mean, you have to be so demented to believe that a child fully understands. I heard a few conversations about, well, if the child fully understands, they don't. They don't, because they're children.
I'm
That's like how
21
being a
and I
child
still
works.
don't understand.
17-year-old, like if a 17-year-old's like living as male for like 5 years.
The prompt was
it's
about
like,
minors, and
Yeah, but a
12-year-olds
17-year-old
are
is a
getting
minor.
top surgery. So it's easy to say, well, if it's 17-year-olds, okay, well.
In my state, that's actually
There's a
legal
nuanced
age.
conversation about even 17-year-olds, I guess, because the age of consent in some places is lower, but that's not what's happening, right? It's 12-year-olds.
When we talk about minors, it's like, what age range are we really talking about here?
Anyone under
because
18.
because the thing is, when we talk about detransitioners or whatnot, all I hear is a lot of regret, right? Regret that they got these surgeries, regret of the complications, regret, and that's fine. I'm not taking away anybody's experience because these things do happen. But let's also remember, again, there is a process. Now, I have a lot of empathy for those detransitioners that have gone through the process and they are suffering.
But
I
it's
do
not
have
just
empathy for
detrans
that.
people. It's
But
not
I'm
just
but
detrans
that's where
people.
I'm just talking about in the conversation, for this particular conversation. And I understand what you're saying, because you're absolutely right. There are more people.
Even
that are
among
doing that.
adults, we all
But-
do different things in
but-
our transition. Some of us
correct.
want bottoms, some of us don't. Some of us want tops, some of us don't.
I
So
understand,
you
but-
need a lot of time as an adult to figure out what you want to do.
But see, the thing is, though, some adults don't even understand what they want to do. So that's
Exactly.
What? Of course. Exactly. So you say, yeah, minors should be able to do it, but some adults don't even know what they want to do. Motherfucker, you're proving the goddamn point. What the hell?
So how can a child?
But see, children, wait a minute, let's not
planet?
underestimate the power of these kids today, okay? They are very much more educated because they have much more resources and access than
They're less educated because they have more access, and they don't have access. They're not reading studies. They're not reading they're not reading multiple studies. They're looking on TikTok. They're looking on YouTube. They're looking on Instagram and shit, and they're getting their opinions from there. They're not more informed. They're less informed because they have more technology.
we did
Wow.
coming up. So let's be
So
very
they're
clear about
advanced
that.
and they can
when we
consent.
talk
Who
about
else says that?
detransitioners, that has been the main topic here
Pedophiles.
or whatnot, because we
But
want to
it's
bring
not now.
detransitioners in to the room, so there's a space. Thank you.
To your point about the reason why I'm against it is because, like you said, the children need to go through the proper steps, the parents, the doctors. But in the state of California, if you, as a parent, tell your minor, no, you're not getting this, I'm not affirming your gender, I'm taking your kids away, and California is going to raise your kids for you. So
Canada
how's
too.
that?
Canada too.
That's not right.
We also know that, like, all those safeguards that you're talking about, they're not happening.
Yeah, that's
They're
what I'm
not
saying.
happening at all.
California will
and
take your
we
kids.
we know because there was a whistleblower out of St. Louis, and this isn't some conservative whistleblower. She was married to a trans man, and she considers herself queer. So she blew the whistle and said that they had an in-house doctor. If you couldn't find a affirming therapist to sign off on the form, they would pencil whip it.
But do you believe that it should happen?
Which is wild. Saying that if in that state, or that person says that if they couldn't find, if you can't find a gender affirming doctor, then they would just assign you someone who would just just write it up, check, you're all right, go transition, without any real diagnosis or anything of dysphoria. They'll just be like, up, there you go.
Do you believe there should be a process when it comes to medical transition?
No,
We have to
there's no
stop-
right
so,
process for
yeah.
kids to hack
Oh,
off
no, I
their
was asking
breasts.
her, honey. I'm sorry.
No,
I was
no.
asking
Well,
her.
I answered because
No,
I'm
you
here in
don't.
the room. So
No.
Okay, thank you.
I feel like personally, like if we're talking about like a 12-year-old getting top surgery, like to me that's just like medical malpractice. Because I know for me, like to get top surgery, like I can only get it at 18 because my insurance covered it at 18. But I had to start that process like long before. Like even hormones was a long process. So I think there's like an area of literal like medical malpractice because no like kid at that age should be getting that in my opinion because you do not know. But I do think there are instances where like a 16 or 17-year-old like could get it, and I don't know if that means like banning like below 16 or like whatever, but
So in the UK, it was the I can't remember what it was. It's the reason why they're shutting down the Tavistock clinic in the UK though, is because they found that when you start a child on hormone or on puberty blockers then hormones, it's basically a foregone conclusion that they're going to end up having surgery. It puts them on a path to sunk cost fallacy.
And to add on to that, that's why they say, oh yeah, people who start their transition finish their transition, because like if you start somebody to do something and they're already in the process, they're more likely to keep doing it because they're already doing it. You can't just be like if you get top surgery and then you try to go back on it, you're like, fuck, I already got the top surgery. Now I can't go back to be a woman. Shit like that. That's what they basically found. Like, you're going to continue doing it and then it's like if they take them off of doing it, if they take them off the path, they just end up being like gay or lesbian or some shit like that.
I don't understand this obsession with
Obsession.
other people's children.
It's about caring about kids.
I'm talking. Oh my God.
It's
Get it
obsession.
together.
I have it together.
Yo, the obsession with the conservatives about other people's kids. If it is your child, it is your choice what you do with your kid.
Just to talk about someone who's at 16.
I mean, that's just fucking stupid because we do that all the time with other people's kids. Like, there's certain things you shouldn't be involved with other people's kids with, but if somebody's beating their child, you ain't gonna be like, oh, well, that's their child. Why? What's your obsession with other people's kids? You're not gonna let someone else beat their own child? The fuck is wrong with you? That's why we have CPS and all that fucking shit because we're worried about other people's kids. What the fuck are you talking about? Now, on the other hand, it's like, why are y'all obsessed with other people's kids? Why are y'all trying to put that shit in schools? Why are y'all doing all this bullshit? Pretty weird.
The level of consent in the state of California, from my understanding, someone who's 16 can also drop out of high school, which would severely affect their life. And they have access to that decision if they want to, because say they want to get into the job market or whatever their reason is, but they have that option to make that choice at 16. I will agree with you that someone at 12, I'd be uncomfortable with somebody at 12 years old getting.
I'm not sure about that. I'll have to look that up. I'm not sure if a 16-year-old can just decide to drop out of fucking high school. I don't think you can just be like, I'm not going to school anymore. Because if you miss a certain amount of days of school or something, then you'll get fucking child services called on you, right? I don't think you can just be like, yeah, I'm dropping out. I don't think a child could actually decide to do that. I'm not sure though.
Surgery completely, because there's still a lot of the world for them to learn about themselves, how to navigate it, et cetera, but for us to have access to be able to drop out of high school if we wanted to and make such a life-changing decision that could affect, you economically, socially, so many different ways. But then to say, you know what, you're not old enough to make this decision, for me, again, as somebody who was 16 and was in such a religious family and all the restrictions that I had, if I didn't have access to those things, I don't know if I would be here. And I've learned a lot through my transition and through my access. And I even grew up in the wild, wild west where everything was still on YouTube and we didn't really even have medical providers really even giving us guidance, and especially trans men. So I find it rather uncomfortable that we're able to make a 16-year-old be able to make that type of decision. An 18-year-old is allowed to go into service, but for some reason we can't give that same access to a kid to have that consciousness. Because I can tell you at 16, I knew who I was. I'm not at 12, not at 14, but 16, there's a certain level of consciousness and experience.
So, compulsory education law requires that children between 6 and 18 years of age to attend school with a limited number of specified exemptions. Once they turn 18. And you have to have your parents' permission. So that person is lying. You can't just, at 16, just decide to drop out of high school. You can't do that.
That you've experienced in society, that you understand the pocket you fit in.
But just because other bad things happen doesn't mean that that is okay. It's like, so just because they can drop out of school means they should be able to cut their breasts off?
Man, I'm gonna have to cut all these ads out when I upload the video.
Non-binary should not be considered under the trans umbrella.
Oh shit, there go that non-binary fella right there and them Blaire rights over there. Let's see what they gonna do, because you know it's gonna be just them two. They gonna get in it. Let's see. Cat fight. I mean, they fight. They them fight. Alright, let's see.
Let's go, girl.
This is evil.
I think that the concept of a transgender umbrella is inherently an issue, right? Because when you're talking about something as nuanced, complex, full of social dynamics, medical dynamics, so many things to be considered. When you're talking about a transsexual, you should really be specific, right? And this entire concept actually of transgender is relatively new. Like it came about in the 70s or 80s through queer theory, when originally it was about transsexuals, which was considered a medical diagnosis, which was a medical process, and it's defined something very specific. So for me, when I hear that non-binary, which if I'm to understand correctly, means
I think
that
androgynous.
Right, and it means you identify somewhere in between male and female. That's not what a transsexual is.
The definition of a trans person is somebody whose body has been altered, or somebody who identifies as a different gender whose body has been altered via
Right.
hormones or surgery.
And there's two genders, so if you want to say, you know, you identify as a different gender, it has to be one of those two,
That's
which
the
would
big
make you a
argument, yeah.
transsexual if you're actually trans. I think it makes about as much sense as saying that bisexual is under the straight umbrella. It's like, no, that's a separate thing. And I think there's beauty in being separate things. There's beauty in having your own lanes. And my concern is there's so much, clearly, as we see today, really heated conversations about trans people that when you start adding in queer theory, non-binary, it just makes it muddy, and the people at home, hello, don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
Here's the thing about a lot of the people who identify as non-binary, so to speak. When they do so, they typically don't medically transition.
Right.
And when you do so, at that point, it's a costume.
Well,
Like-
it's gender nonconformity, right? And so we,
Because they can
Blair's
take
saying-
this off. I can't take this off.
Yeah, as Blaire's saying, we look at gender nonconformity, which used to be okay. You can wear what you want. You can present however you want, but it doesn't make you something different. You can't, you know, as Blaire was saying, it comes out of queer theory, which is postmodern neo-Marxism, which means that there's no such thing as absolute truth. They don't believe there's truth, so it kind of erodes the structure of society. And it's actually really regressive in a lot of ways, because you end up getting it to where it's literally based off of stereotypes, which we've tried to for so long get rid of. Like, it's okay to be gender nonconforming male or gender nonconforming female, and that didn't make you non-binary. It didn't make you trans.
When I meet a trans person, right, like a trans woman, a trans man, there is an inherent camaraderie. Like when you mentioned, I can't take this off, part of me almost got a little bit emotional. I know it's hard to believe people think I have emotions, but I really do. And because I saw you in that moment, and I said, you know what, we are similar in that way. We may be different in other ways. We don't know each other very well, but we have that. When I talk to or I'm around a non-binary person, it doesn't really click, it doesn't connect because it is so different. So I think that's inherently, I should be able to see some semblance of my own issue within that person, and I don't when they're non-binary at all.
And so I have no issue with non-binary people. I just don't think that we're the same.
Yeah, same.
And so when like I was saying before, like when our acceptance rate has completely been destroyed because these people are initiating violence in our name, they're gonna self-ID out of the category, and then we're gonna be the ones left holding the bag.
Yeah, it's just, if sex is a binary and you're neither of those, then you're not trans.
Hello.
The Mod Meal Deal. $10.99 for a mod-sized pizza and 20-ounce drink. Grab one today.
How these damn commercials? Ads.
It would be really hard for a cis person to truly imagine what it's like to be trans and what it's like to live with that and be born that way. And I'm not non-binary, and so I really cannot picture what it would, because I'm a binary trans person. I can't imagine what it's like to be in between that. But just like how the cis person can't really...
You're not in between it. You're gay. What? I'm pretty sure that's how it feels. It feels like you're gay. You feel a little feminine, you feel a little masculine, you feel a little in between. You don't want to get rid of your beard, but you want to wear a pretty dress. You get fucked by dudes. You're gay. It's cool, whatever. And if you're a woman, you want to climb trees, you want to go hunting, you want to skin a deer or something, dress a deer and shit. You don't want to just be stuck in the one spot, but you feel a little both sometimes, but you still want to eat a little pussy here and there. You're gay. It's cool. Just be gay, dude.
Truly understand that. It doesn't mean that it's not a thing and it's not real. And I really believe that we have like 85 years like on this earth, and like so many people spend so much time being like sad and uncomfortable in their bodies. And if we were just all comfortable, like if somebody like wants to go by a name and like dress a certain way and they are saying, this makes me so comfortable, this is what makes me happy, there is no reason they shouldn't do that. And my God, there is no reason why we should say, well, you're not a part of this because like this is us and like this is whatever. Because literally like we could all sit here and agree that like non-binary people are like not a part of the trans community or whatever, which is not my opinion. But we could like, that doesn't like change anything. Like we have a vast community. And I believe that non-binary people are a part of the community because I have so many shared experiences with so many non-binary people I know. We have
I got some shared experiences I got a good amount of shared experiences with some women, but that doesn't make me a fucking woman, nor does it make them a man. That don't make sense. That don't make you trans just because you say, I have some experiences. So, the fuck? The fuck?
Very similar experiences in growing up with dysphoria, with transition, with anything, and nobody has to do anything. Nobody has to transition in a way they don't want to transition. And yeah, like, let's be a happy family. My
But
God, let's all just be happy.
Wait, what is non-binary then? Like, dysphoria is you feeling like you're in the wrong body or something about you is wrong with that, right? And non-binary is just means that you're just doesn't you don't want to dress. It's all about aesthetics. It's not about like you actually doing anything to change your body. You just want to be neither. But you're not going to change anything. You're just going to change how you like look, like your dress wise, and put makeup on. Like this dude. This dude didn't do anything extra. He's wearing girly shit. And he said, I'm non-binary with a beard. You're a man who's gay.
That's my vibe.
Yeah, or fight the fight together.
Yeah, like,
because
let's do it.
honestly,
Like,
We have
unite.
separate fights, though. That's the thing.
No, we
I don't know if it
We're
is.
weakening our borders by creating this divide within our own community. This is so silly. Look, I actually understand like a lot of the points that are being made here from the conservative side because I grew up conservative. I voted when I was 18. I voted for fucking Bush. Y'all.
Damn, girl.
Like I was conservative. Okay.
So we're the same age.
So it was not until my later age that I kind of decided, like, you know what? Let me be more open to different types of communication, different types of people. I actually talked so much shit about pronouns, like they, them, all this. I was like, what is this trash? When it first started really coming out, I did not agree with it. I was like, what is this? This is stupid. How can you be a them? Blah, 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 blah.
You were
and I did the
correct.
whole thing, the grammatically. You're interrupting me.
But you were correct. I'm just
But
saying. I'm agreeing with
They
you.
asked you not to comment, and you're commenting. So if you could stop, that would be great.
Well,
Thank
whatever.
you. So anyway, as I was saying, so I changed my mind because I got to spend time around other people who were non-binary, who were
Amen.
non-conforming, and I got to speak with them, and I got to experience their life and their experiences. And then I realized myself, I'm like, shit, maybe this is what I've been experiencing my whole life, only because I was exposed to it. If I would have never been exposed to it, I would have never known that this could have been
Sounds like indoctrination to me, bud.
my experience. And I would have lived the rest of my life as a different person, as somebody who I'm not. And it's funny that you keep talking, that some people keep talking about, oh, you need to go through HRT, you need to have surgeries in order to be trans. That is all garbage.
Another thing I never said is just so crazy.
Again, you're still interrupting me while I'm talking. This is the second time now.
You're addressing me.
This
and
is the second time now.
If you can claim someone said something they didn't say, they should be able to correct you in the moment.
Do you feel good now that you said what you needed to say?
I feel fine.
Wonderful.
I'm sitting pretty. I'm fine.
So, I mean, sometimes it's like the power.
And then this dude is just like chewing gum. That's just fucking disrespectful as fuck. Like, why are you chewing gum while you're sitting in a debate? Like, the fuck? So weird.
That needs to hold me back.
I mean, you're
because
appropriating a medical condition. That's what you're really doing.
I exist. I am proof that non-binary people exist and that it is a thing. And because I'm sitting right here in front of all of you, I'm a real person. This is my experience, just as yours is a trans experience. That as a trans woman, as a trans man, or as whatever. But I'm not here to belittle your experience or to tell you that you don't exist. And that's the difference between you and I, that you're trying to cancel you. And when I say you, I'm talking about conservatives. And maybe it is you. You're part of the thing. You're part of the thing.
Here's where I get to interject because there's a lot of
okay?
things. Said.
All right. So Blaire did interrupt, but this dude's going on for like fucking ever.
About me?
Stop it.
Addressing her. Just talk to everybody.
But what is your dysphoria?
Well, there was some things. I'm going to let you. Okay. So another complete. I don't want to say the word lie, but I guess that's what it is about what I've said here, right? I never said you don't exist. So we can add that to the long list of things y'all have said. I've said that I didn't. We know you exist. You're here. You're not fictitious, right? My point is you're different than me, and I don't even think you deny that, but yet when I say it, it's an issue, right? The same way that he said he can't take that off, you can, right? It's different. At the very least, it's different. And when we have a community that there are so many categories, demi-girl, demi-boy, astrosexual, all this shit, but y'all can't fathom that maybe that would be a different category than what I am when we have such different, as you keep saying, and everyone keeps saying, experiences? It doesn't make sense. A bisexual is different than a gay man.
Can I ask a question? I just actually want to ask you a question. What is your dysphoria, though? Because gender dysphoria, or sex dysphoria, as I would rather call it, is an uncomfortability between my secondary sex characteristics, not just what I wear on a daily basis, because masculinity and femininity doesn't have anything to do with being trans.
My name is Melissa York. I'm the Senior Director of Volunteerism and Advocacy at the Jewish Federation of...
But that's not true. But that is not true. You can have dysphoria without having to be dysphoric about your sex parts.
But what is your
you
dysphoria?
Can have dysphoria
what is
about
your
anything.
dysphoria?
Straight cis women have dysphoria about their breasts all the time. They get breast augmentation.
It's not dysphoria.
That doesn't mean dysphoric about certain things.
Hold up. That's not dysphoria, right? What's it? Dysphoria and dysmorphia, right? Isn't that dysmorphia? Like where you just don't like if I say that shit, man, I've been hitting the gym, I ain't getting big, I ain't buff like I want to be. I don't have dysphoria. Like I'm dysmorphic, right? I'm so confused.
That doesn't mean that. And you don't know my life. You're not in my life daily.
That's why I asked you a question.
You don't know what I
cannot-
experience, the different things that I experience personally.
I cannot believe that I grew up as, this 5-year-old little kid experiencing just crippling gender dysphoria, like horrible thoughts, struggled so much my entire life to be sitting in this room.
Okay, so I do know a little bit, okay? So dysmorphia, the shape and size of a specific body part, right? Wait, deformity or abnormality in the shape or size of a body part. Or being extremely preoccupied with a perceived flaw in appearance that to others that can be seen, right? That's dysmorphia. Dysphoria is a state of unease or generalized dissatisfaction with life. Okay. So, yeah, okay. This is two different things. Sorry.
And you're explaining to her what dysphoria is.
I have my experience. It
It's
doesn't mean that I
amazing.
didn't have crippling.
You got a different experience.
It doesn't mean
You got a
that-
different
oh my God,
experience.
We all have a different. We all have a
We all have
different
different
Which makes us different.
I know, but we're all both not.
It's okay,
Different
y'all.
things. That's it. It's that simple.
We don't identify as our gender at birth.
Obviously, I'm not a non-binary person, so I can't speak for non-binary people, but I can talk about what I've been taught by non-binary people. From what I understand, when it comes to some non-binary people, sometimes they have to go into the gender binary for safety reasons, depending on the environment that they're in. A non-binary person stepping into this world and dismissing the gender norms of what people think a man and a woman is supposed to be like is so powerful. If you don't want to be mutable to the times of
See, and this is where this person contradicts what they said earlier.
the expansion of the trans and non-binary experience, then just say that. I would rather you just say that you are not willing to move forward, learn the new terminology, learn the new pronouns that come with the trans umbrella and the trans experience for the most part. And also, I'm sorry, one more thing. And also, too, there are non-binary people who have different sexual orientations. Let's also name that, too. There are so many layers of nuance that we could really get to when it comes down to the root of what being non-binary is.
But what's the definition?
But it doesn't make them trans.
My big thing when it comes to, I agree with a lot of the things that you just said. I actually love you. I adore you.
Oh, thank you. Right back at you.
But here's the thing, right? That's not the prompt. The prompt was, is it different? And it is. Again, when I go out, I can't take my beard off, girl. It's not coming off.
Right.
Unfortunately, as much as I hate having facial hair despite being a guy,
Real.
I can't go and reshape my body. I can't go and shave my Adam's apple down.
I mean, you can reshape your body. Go to the gym, nigga. You reshape your body, bruh. You can't shave your Adam's apple down. I mean, you could shave your Adam's. You could get surgery for that. Don't do it. But you could. Wait, is this dude fucking a dude or... No, this is trans. Trans, right? Yeah. Yeah, this is trans. What you mean? What the fuck? Why don't you like having an Adam's apple? Why don't you like having a beard? You want to be a guy, right? Well, I ain't gonna say all guys like having Adam's apples or beards, but that's what comes with the territory. You know what I'm saying? You gotta deal
Been
with
on
it.
this since I was 15. What if it had gone wrong?
So I have an interesting experience with non-binary myself, as someone who has presented as a binary trans man. I also don't take testosterone. So for me, especially throughout my transition, I took testosterone for a short period of time just to get the beard and the aesthetics that I wanted to in my transition. And once I reached those goals, I personally didn't want to lose my access to being able to give birth to a kid, especially with being with my wife for 17 years. We've been wanting to have kids, so I wanted to, have a backup uterus, so to speak.
So you wanted to be a woman and a man. So you didn't actually want to be a man. You wanted to look like a man. You wanted to have a beard. The fuck? Oh my god, these people are freaking insane.
And in that process of doing that, I've discovered a lot about myself and my own identity of what is a man, what is a woman. And for me, when I take a look at the issue and the conversation, there's kind of two things happening. Simultaneously, our community is infighting with each other instead of looking outwardly at these structural systems that are actually.
Yo, and that's so weird. Like, I even heard Blaire White say this. Like, you want to have you want to be able to, you want to transition to the opposite gender, right? But you don't want everything that comes with the opposite gender. Oh, I wanna be a guy, but I want to have a beard. I want to shave my Adam's apple. I want to be a guy, but I want to still have to give birth. Blaire White, I want to be a girl, but I still want to have my penis. Like, dude, come on, bro. If you're gonna go with it, go all the way. You say you want to be a woman, be a woman. Want to be a man, be a fucking man, dude. Go all the way. Especially if you trying to be a man. Shit, you want to be man up. Get rid of that pussy, man up, motherfucker. Get rid of that. Get rid of it. Get your neo vagina, Blaire. Get your fake dick, dude.
Truly affecting us with laws, politics, access to medical care, and etc. While simultaneously, we see that the idea of fitting into the patriarchal structures, the misogyny, everything that is kind of placed in us, I don't subscribe to that. I mean, all my life have been breaking the rules of what a gender ideology is just by my pure existence. I didn't grow up with the idea of knowing what trans was my entire life. I discovered that actually being homeless. I didn't discover that through some collegiate access to college or influence from others. There was no one around me that knew or that I knew it was trans. I discovered that myself. But as I've aged in my transition, because I've been trans for damn near almost 20 years now, I've discovered my own fluidity in that area because I actually enjoy my female side too.
One scoop of AG1 replaces multiple supplements with 75 high-quality ingredients.
Doctors are manipulating trans medical care.
I think there's three types of doctors out there. I think there are the ones who absolutely think that they're doing this for the right reasons. I think that there are the ones who are absolutely doing it for money, like we saw at Vanderbilt. The people at Vanderbilt literally said this is a huge moneymaker. And then I think that there are, I don't know if it's incompetence or ineptitude or laziness. Because what we're seeing, not just in the trans community, we're seeing in society, SSRIs being pushed on patients. Mental health doctors are pushing so many different drugs without getting to the root issues.
See, I have an interesting perspective on this. I've been out for 11 years this year. I've been on testosterone since I was 15 years old. And even looking into it, I waltzed my little ass up into that doctor's office and I left on testosterone. He gave me my first shot in the doctor's office that day. Oh my gosh. I was 15 years old. What if I had been wrong? What if I had been wrong?
That's what I'm saying. That one motherfucker is actually listening to the conversation. And every time he's like, hey, shit, I have my opinion, but I'm listening to understand it now. So let me come up because now I agree. I get it. I get it. I like that motherfucker.
Really just
That's how you actually have a debate. You listen to what the person says, and if you agree, then like people are scared to agree with the opposite side. Shouldn't be scared. You agree? Say you agree.
It's that simple.
I'm joining mid-convo.
Wow, nice to see you.
Because I think, like, it's not, I don't think it's like a huge widespread issue, but I think when we have like a for-profit healthcare system, it does happen. Like, I feel like there are, I believe that people should be evaluated and go through tests. And like, for me, getting on testosterone and getting surgery was a massive process in my life. But I do think that it probably happens. Just like you said, like with SSRIs and stuff, like things are overprescribed.
So I do think it's a massive issue. I think that society in general, as Sarah mentioned, is over-medicalized right now. We're in this weird climate where there are entire political movements behind if you do or you don't have a vaccine, you can't enter this building if you do, you can if you do, you know, it's like crazy. But, you know, when it comes to the trans issue, I think just the fact that there were really almost no detransitioners as recent as like 5-6 years ago, and the fact that it's exploded now shows that it is a massive issue. And, you know, I think that I can reflect what you said. I was over 18 when I started my hormones, but I had a 20-minute appointment, and just like you, I walked in and out with an estrogen prescription. Insane. I wasn't tested for my levels.
I didn't have to see a therapist first.
No.
That's crazy.
For a child.
I was a child. I was
So,
15
and
years
that
old.
is a very,
in
very
one of the most
common-
conservative states in the country. So if that's what's going on
Wow.
in Georgia,
Wow.
imagine what's going on everywhere else.
California, hello.
Yeah, when I went for my initial appointment, I literally helped my doctor find gender dysphoria on his chart and mark it for me.
That's insane.
And I walked out with my prescription that day.
I mean, because I do a lot of work with the D-trans community, and the problem is I actually don't really care too much about, you know, if you are an adult and you walk into a doctor's office and want estrogen and you walk out, I don't think that's an issue. What is an issue is when doctors are not giving all the information, when they're actually telling you that this is what's right for you, and then it's not. They're actually manipulating their patients. They're manipulating, you know, they say if you don't do this, you're gonna kill yourself, and all this stuff. So I would actually rather a doctor say, I have no idea what this is gonna do to you, but it's your body, your choice, you can do what you want, and then leave you on your way and you can make that decision.
Right.
I think they're not asking the patient why. Why do you feel this way? It's a simple question.
Another thing I was never informed of, you know, when I started my hormone journey, and now it seems, you know, like common sense, but I was, you know, 20, so it's like, you know, even 20-year-olds can have oversights. No one told me I had to freeze my sperm.
That's crazy.
So I'm years
that.
into estrogen. I reached the point of adulthood where you maybe meet a partner where that might be something you want to do, and I learned that I can't, and it's simply because.
You know what's so crazy? That all this shit, like you'll hear these trans activists says, "Oh, this has been going on for years, centuries. There've been like people who have different gender. It hasn't. Like the real studies for it hasn't been happening, and then." Like they're saying, oh, the doctors right now know what's going on. They know what's right for the children. They don't know. We don't have any long-term studies about any of this bullshit. But they're going in saying this is what's right for your children. And they're saying it because it's like they give you two options. As a parent, you go in there and they say, hey, you need to do this for your child or your child will kill themselves. Like, that's so fucked up. Like, and it's just like, hey, I don't want my kid to die, so hell yeah, I'm gonna go with it. And then the kid ended up killing himself because it wasn't the fucking right thing to do. It wasn't the right choice.
That doctor didn't care to tell me. And why? Who knows? Maybe it was because of money. It was easier for him or better for him to get me in and out and get that money rather than maybe a couple more appointments where I'm having to figure out, you know, how to freeze my sperm in the meantime. But a lot of these doctors are also activists.
They also don't tell trans men that they're going to go through menopause.
Right. There's a lot of issues with trans men. Buck Angel talks about that.
He
a
almost
lot of
died.
issues. Yeah,
Like, he's
he
a
almost
friend
died.
of mine. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Insane.
So I actually almost walked up first because I do feel like the system is like pretty broken and there's not enough education in the medical system for doctors to be prescribing all the things that they do. Again, discussing SSRIs, like I was a victim of that myself. And so, you know, I empathize for those stories. I understand that that does happen. I'm not negating that. But I think to negate, medical service to somebody who needs it, who it might be life or death for, just because you feel some type of way about it, isn't right. Like, why do you care what, little Timothy or Sally are doing or whatever? Like, why do you personally care what?
Well, Timothy and
they're
Sally
children,
are 8 and 12, so.
Okay, just, sorry, we're doing no comments.
But we're not talking about children 7 or 12, and this doesn't happen often. Has it happened? Yeah, it has, because that's the thing. It's a big world. Like, things happen all the time. Things we can't even imagine happen. It just is a reality. But again, to walk through a door and then close it for other people to walk through, that's kind of messed up, in my opinion.
They're all saying that the door that they walked through was wrong in the first place. Like, just because something happens for one person, that like if all right, let's take affirmative action. If a black person says, "Hey, I got here from affirmative action, but it's bad because it made me feel like, did I really get here because on my own merit, or did I get here because of affirmative action?" They're trying to close the door that they walked through, but they're acknowledging that the door that they walked through was wrong in the first place. That's all they're doing right now. It's fucked up. And then he even said that he almost went on SSRIs, but he knows that was the wrong choice. He's like, yo, that almost happened to me, but I knew it was not the right decision for me. So you're saying that it's wrong too, but you're just like, but kids still should still do it. That's fucking stupid. Make no sense.
So to your point for being able to receive hormone therapy in the way that you did, I had a similar experience. I was able to walk in and get access to hormones. And that system was set up through advocacy because of what a lot of community folks are actually facing when it comes to access to hormones, access to medical care, access to all of these things. So a lot of these nonprofits actually got rid of a lot of the red tape, because for some individuals like myself who was actually homeless during my transition process, I would have never been able to afford access or get through all of this process. Now, can I admit that there is some medical malpractice? Yes, I myself had issues obtaining testosterone consistently. For some reason, the script doesn't match up, or you got to get in contact with a doctor. And it was part of the reason why I chose actually to go off testosterone, because I didn't like the idea of not having constant access, because I was worried about the damage that it could cause to my body, and also because I wanted to keep intact my reproductive rights. From what I have seen when it comes to these detransitioners, from my understanding in terms of the statistics, trans people are 8% of the population, and then the detransitioners are somewhere from 1 to 8% as well. So all of these laws that are coming in is to affect the entire community as a broad, while the percentages that we're affecting people is so small. While simultaneously, if we looked at things like in the past, like HIV with...
What? Hold up. How you gonna say that and then you're trying to enact laws? Like, you would be for enacting laws for the general population just because of you, just because of your group, which is like 1 or less than 1%. You're saying, oh, we shouldn't have these laws because of these transitioners, when it's the majority of trans people don't go through this. Okay, so we shouldn't have any trans positive laws, or try to have trans positive laws, because you're just the minority. You're less than a minority. You're way down there. Like, use your own logic, buddy.
Things like AZT drugs that were harming folks, those folks went through all of those processes and learned the research of what it was to properly take care of HIV through that unfortunate, horrible, horrific process.
I mean, it was basically chemo.
Yeah, I mean, AZT was killing people, and they had no clue what we're doing. Now, unfortunately, because trans people have not got access to medical transition as long, and especially in the transmasculine community, there's a lot of research that has not been done. So to a degree, yes, we are guinea pigs in the shot in the dark. But just like in the 80s when AZT was being discovered, or 90s when it's being discovered, those folks had to go through that process. And I was given informed consent and understood that when I signed that.
We just don't know, because the studies aren't there, like you said, right? So the problem is, when you talk about like the detransition rate, What generally happens is there's no follow-up. The longest study that's been done is 5 years out. The average detransition happens between 4 and 10 years. So we're not capturing all of that. Plus, if you haven't had your primary sex organs removed, you literally just stop taking hormones, and then you never go see your doctor again. And so they never follow up, and you just fall off the rolls. So the stats on detransition is completely false.
So I want to say something. First of all, I want to empathize with everyone here when it comes to the healthcare system, because it's not always for us. I don't think that doctors are manipulating trans care. I think they're still learning about trans care. And to your point, there is not a lot of research because the research is still new and fresh. You know, detransitioning is a thing, but truth be told, detransitioning is actually rare when it comes to not just wanting to be trans anymore. Now, the underlying factors within that is healthcare conditions, which I actually heard a trans man who is famous talk about, you know very well. I agree with what y'all were saying because these issues are very, very real, but also I think it's really because doctors are still learning about our experience.
So I just have to say, some things that were brought up about detransitioners, which I found just a little bit ironic, right? Because for a community that is 1% or less of the general population, we can never seem to find it within ourselves to find empathy for it, even if it is the 1% of our community, which is detransitioners, and for the horrific medical malpractice, abuse, mental and spiritual turmoil they go through. It's like, so we want the rest of the world to say this 1% matters, but our 1% doesn't matter. That's the first thing. The second thing is, it's not as if they detransition because of, just like you said, the loosening of all the restrictions to get on these drugs. It's like, that's not a good thing. Gatekeeping is a good thing. Like making sure the right people are getting on these drugs so there aren't regret cases, there aren't botched cases. That's what we have to go towards, because right now we're going down the slippery slope of anyone can get on it. Every single person here, I'm pretty sure, just stated that they went in and walked out in an hour or less to get their hormones. And that's a huge problem, especially a child.
Because of things that have happened to me, I can see a
15,
future where transitioning for adults is banned. Like, I can, because of everything that's going on with kids.
Yeah, I think most of us are against a ban on stuff like that. Obviously,
Yeah,
we're all sitting
obviously,
here for a reason.
but
I think I had the common ground, though, because everybody here kind of also admitted that we don't have the research. And so when we don't have the research, and I'll tell you, I think that adults can do what they want, but I think we don't push forward with transitioning children until we have the research. We do the research. And this is actually what GenSpec pushes as well. GenSpec organization, they push to get more research on it. So we absolutely know what this does. Because even the WPATH guidance, the latest guidance from WPATH, everything that it says even about puberty blockers, it cites a study, and then it says we don't know.
To your point about gaining research, how do you expect the medical community to gain access to research if we're just preventing these folks to actually go through any of the processes to learn the scientific method of what is happening? Just like with AZT drugs, where we learned that that was actually harming us, and now we have things like Biktarvy.
Yeah, so it's the same way as we have with any research. You have a very select, very heavy gatekeeping crew that you're allowed to, create these studies around. And you need a good checklist to be like, these people show all the actual signs of gender dysphoria. They are having like very strong distress, and in every state that's passed bans on access for minors also has provisions, except for in the most extreme cases, to conduct studies on.
When you live the life of a fighter, you deserve the mark of a fighter.
Gender affirming transition is suicide prevention.
Look at our unified front.
I mean, obviously, it's a known thing that trans youth are at greater risk of suicide and just suicidal ideations, which are horrible and will plague you and like ruin your life and make it awful. And so I know there are a lot of kids in a lot of pain, and growing up as a trans kid, I was in so much pain, and I feel like I could have been spared of a lot of that and gotten to enjoy my life a lot more if I had earlier access to gender affirming care. And even the gender affirming care that I did receive later in my life, and I went on hormones when I was like 16 and I got top surgery at 17, that completely changed my life in the most dramatic way. And so, yeah, I think it is life-saving care, and I think a lot of trans people would agree.
I agree as well, too. I think gender dysphoria is a real thing, and we all deal with gender dysphoria differently.
And this is like I was saying before. This is how they get you. They said it's a gender affirming care is suicide prevention. It is suicide prevention. So they're saying if you don't get it, you're going to commit suicide. That's why that's it's like it's manipulation, right? Right? It's emotional manipulation. It's like if you got a girlfriend or a boyfriend and they say, "Hey, break up with me, I'm gonna kill myself." It's the same thing.
I know for myself or whatnot, there were times I wanted to end it all. And for me, I went to desperate measures to align my body with how I feel on the inside. And for some of us, especially living in the South, we don't always have access to hormone care. So some of us have to go to the black market. We have to do things to our body to be able to align us to where we are not willing to commit suicide. I don't think that's the only way. I think there are other ways as well too, but honestly, sometimes people just want somebody that cares, that wants to listen as part of the regimen to being able to prevent suicide.
I've chosen to not medically transition in my bottom half, let's put it that way. But, and this is the first time I'm actually saying this out loud, but I am having facial feminization surgery. And that was an incredibly ridiculously difficult journey, even as an adult who has a really good job and access to really great health care. But I still had to go through so many hoops, and I was still denied by insurance. And in my own personal life, I've also struggled quite a bit with mental health, and a lot of that really relates to the certain parts of my body. Like I always hated my body when I was younger, and I didn't understand why. And and I was always dressing, as like a cis male, and I just had all this stuff just didn't fit. It just didn't feel right, and it was just like this darkness in my life. Like I just wanted it, gone. And I just learned to live with it. But then eventually, like, after figuring out who I am and all of that, like now I know like this is life-saving care. Like this for me is life-saving care. Like who knows where I could be in a few years had I not known who I am and had access to care.
How y'all doing?
I think too often we hear, that if we don't affirm our child's, gender identity that's different than their sex, then they're going to commit suicide. We hear this all the time, especially from the detransition community whose parents were told this and it was manipulative. We hear politicians say this all the time when they're trying to, stop bills or pass bills. The problem with that is that's the same line that abusers use. So when you're in a relationship, if you're going to leave somebody and they say, if you leave me, I'll kill myself, then that is an abusive situation. And it's not, so that's the premise we start with. Transition, I mean, we're all here, we know. Transition is not an easy process. It takes a heavy mental toll. And so I really think that if you're already suicidal, you have to get that in check. You have to be in a healthy place before you can even think about going through the medicalization of transitioning. You can socially transition. I think that's absolutely fine. But I think that, before you even think about medically transitioning, then I think you have to have your head right before that. And hormones will make you feel kind of crazy anyways. So I think that that's why, it's not.
Crazy.
See, when it comes to gender affirming care, I appreciate everything that gender affirming care has done for me. And I thank God every day that this was the right decision for me, because I have friends like Richie who it wasn't the right decision for, and now he's missing genitals. So, when it comes to it being life-saving, the reason I didn't step forward, even as somebody who might agree with that prompt, is because correlation is not causation.
You took something that didn't belong to you.
The Equalizer 3 comes.
I'm so sorry about all these damn ads. I'm gonna cut off the ads when I upload the actual video, but sorry. Because my videos don't have ads, because I'm not important. Pretty good debate so far, though.
What do you mean by that?
Just because something is related to another thing does not mean it directly causes it.
Okay.
There's a little thing called a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? And sometimes when we create a narrative, it can kind of take on a life of its own. So I know there's a lot of talk about suicide statistics in the trans community. And interestingly, almost all of those statistics come out of LGBT activist organizations who have an incentive to put those numbers out to portray this image that we are suffering greatly, we're under attack, and then all of those suicide rates are due to societal mistreatment. And when these kids are being told, like you said, when they're going into these doctors, the doctors are telling their parents essentially emotional blackmail. They're saying, trans your kid or your kid's gonna die. And they say it in front of the child. And they set up this false dichotomy as if those are the only two options moving forward. And here to tell any child feeling any type of way, those are not your only two options. In fact, there is a vast array of options in between and around suicide and transition. Therapists and doctors aren't even legally allowed to say, no, you're not trans, you're actually experiencing A, B, or C. And that's the case with detrans people as well. They have this huge host of issues: depression, body dysmorphia, anorexia, eating disorder.
Yo, and that's so weird. Like in Canada, they got that. Like you basically can't, like if a child comes to you and say, "Hey, I think I'm trans," you can't be like, "Ah, maybe you're not trans. Maybe, well, no, you can't say, you can't even be like, yo, let's explore that. Let's see if you're actually trans." Like you can't do that shit in Canada. And I think California, they're they're pushing towards that fucking same law and shit. Like that's insane. Like you're not really being a physician at that point. You're just doing whatever the patient tells you, and that's not fucking care.
Disorders, maybe sexual abuse in their past. People don't know that a symptom, a long observed symptom of sexual abuse is wanting to be the other gender to cope with it.
So
This has been in textbooks forever. So I just think, I'll wrap it up really quickly. I just think it's a false dichotomy that it's either death or transition. But with that said, I agree with you. I appreciate everything the transition's done for me, but it's too much of a roll of the dice, and I think it's unhealthy telling people, do it or you're gonna die, especially a child.
So for the LGBTQ organizations, we also have to remember that they are relying on reputable resources. And a lot of those reputable resources are the medical research that has been put out there. So all they can do is take that information and be able to disseminate that into the community. And to be quite honest with you, hold on just a second. To be quite honest with you, and let's also be clear that these researchers are also collaborating with these organizations because they are the ones that have the most outreach to the community that they need to serve, which is the trans community. Because oftentimes the reason why nonprofit grassroots organizations are created in the first place is because there was no place for us. And so it is really hard to get that research to be able to do that. We can agree to disagree, but the research has not been completely fulfilled yet because a lot of these people don't even know about our experience, and that is why it's important that we make it very clear what we need to do.
There's also, speaking of the numbers that come out of LGBT activist organizations, there was a little number that the life expectancy of a trans woman was 35. That was rescinded a couple years ago after like over a decade of that being like just factually,
Wasn't it like prostitutes, right?
Shared. And I always thought that my life was statistically going to end at 35. So, but those numbers were based on, by those organizations, prostitute deaths. So it's not always the most reputable numbers they're getting, you know what I mean? And these activist organizations are political too. We get caught up in calling them activists and we think it's this emotional, spiritual thing, but they are political organizations.
Yeah, so I am an activist, and so a lot of what you're talking about really was focused more on Black trans women because Black trans women do not live past the age of 35 because oftentimes it is our group within the trans community that is often murdered, we're often harassed, we're often discriminated against, and so a lot more of that focus.
But that could be explained by like them being prostitutes. Like I hate when people put out those numbers. They're like, "Oh yeah, these people get killed more." I mean, like, but why were they killed more? Were they killed more just because they're trans, or were they killed more because either they're trans and they didn't let a dude know that they're trans and dude got mad and then they got killed about like that, or were they killed because a lot of trans women are prostitutes and then like they just got killed because a John didn't want to fucking pay him or something, or they just fucking like like serial killers even do that. They target prostitutes because they know that nobody would care about the fucking prostitute. So maybe that's it. You can't just say, "Oh, these number of people were killed. That means people hate trans people." I don't think that's it. It's stupid.
Has had to be around Black, brown, indigenous folks because oftentimes the research goes missing for us.
They sourced it from prostitutes, though. That was the source of the
But see, the thing is, though, even when we talk about prostitutes, trans women have to sometimes participate in sex work to survive.
But they base it off cis prostitutes. Sorry, I'm done. It was just, it was false numbers.
So from what I understand is, a lot of that focus has always been around Black trans women because we do not get to see the age of 35. You are in a place, when I say privilege, you're in a place of privilege where you do not have to worry about the harassment and the discrimination that I face. I face as a Black person. I face as a Black person. I'm not going to say that you do not experience harassment or discrimination. That's not what I'm saying, because like you said, you're a person of nuance. And so follow me here. When I come as a person of color, as a Black trans woman, you and I do not get to have that same experience. There are
You
more
went to the
rooms,
White House, I didn't.
There are more rooms that you get to walk in that I will be forbidden in. And one thing about it is, that's why it's important, like someone like me has to create her own space to be able to counteract what you're doing. And I'm not saying that you don't. But what I'm saying here is, what I'm trying to get you to understand is, my Blackness should not have to pay for your whiteness that
doesn't even make
is
sense.
destroying.
How many ads does this thing have?
My community.
I'm
Because of
destroying
privilege.
your community.
So are you gonna tell all of my exes
How are you gonna
that?
say that and then that's the end?
What you're talking about too is there's not the research. You're right, there's not. Everybody likes to cite the Turbin study, and Jack Turbin is a complete activist. You can just go to his Twitter account and see how actively involved he is in this and how financially.
I'm sorry, what was his name?
Jack Turbin.
Okay.
And you can see how much he's financially gained off of this study. And the issue is the study is based on a survey. And so it's based on a survey of adults. And so when you're doing surveys are not scientifically accurate. They're the least accurate way to do a study. And so when we're basing all this medical care off of a survey, it's a huge issue. And it doesn't serve, it doesn't really, and that's what they're citing to prove that, gender affirming care reduces suicidality.
My question is, if they're using a survey in terms of how they're gathering data, what do you suggest?
And on top of that, like, it's not long term. You ask a person like 2 years later, "Hey, how you feeling?" "I'm still feeling good about my transition." Ask them in like 20 years. Ask them in like 30 years. See how they felt through their lives. Don't give, like, there's no long-term studies on it. That's why in Sweden and all them, they're going back on all this bullshit because they see the negatives. They see the negative impacts that it's having. So
Then to use a tool then to gather data, because from my understanding, a lot of those surveys are actually more accurate because folks are actually not in front of somebody, so they're more comfortable to answer these questions. Again, we can have a difference of opinion, but what tool then do you suggest folks to use if they're not using a survey then? How do you gain that data?
Well, you're talking to therapists who can speak, they can't violate HIPAA, but they can give statistics on their patients. You can see how many people have entered into facilities because they were suicidal on that. And then you can go back and see, if we gave these same people gender affirming care, how did it help them? Because I see a lot of, again, go back to the detransition community, because we affirm their gender so much, there's so much, they're now having issues. They're contemplating suicide at a higher level as well.
Great.
I enjoyed this debate for what it was. It was quite ugly at certain points, and I wish that it was all trans people on the panel, because that would have been more appropriate and more fitting.
Wow. You're so offensive.
Yo, Blaire might be firing shots. I wish that there were all trans people on the panel. Talking about you, guy. Non-binary, bro. That's ridiculous, dude.
You're an offensive person, human being. Yeah.
Okay.
Just
Well,
to
I find a lot of things over here offensive as well.
Oh, wow. Yeah, you're disgusting.
And I have to, trust me, the feeling is more than mutual. But I will say that it was very enlightening, and I hope to be back at Jubilee soon.
Don't need to hear about anybody else's outro. We only came here for Blaire White. She did pretty good, she's fucking, she's like heated though, like a good amount of time. Like, and these debates are so annoying. Like, I can imagine it being annoying to be in if you are arguing against like an ideology, right? If you're if someone's so into their beliefs that they won't even listen to facts. So it's just, to me, it's fun watching, but I don't think I could be in it because these motherfuckers get so emotional. They don't have facts on their sides, but you know, whatever. Blaire did pretty good. Fuck it. And I hope you